This past summer, we all experienced the decision that was handed down by the United States Supreme Court, in which the U.S. Supreme Court overturned decades of precedent in Roe v. Wade. For the first time, we saw our own Supreme Court actually move to retract and take away previously recognized individual human rights. This put our country at odds with our peer nations throughout the world. As we've seen dozens of nations over recent years act to expand reproductive rights and freedoms, and in fact, here in our own country, we are seeing a retraction of individual rights, a crackdown and oppression around rights. So it is with relief and with pride that we live here in the great state of Minnesota. Here in Minnesota, we hold dear that all of us have a fundamental right to make autonomous decisions about our own reproductive health care decisions. That is what we believe in this state. We saw in last fall's election those values reflected when Minnesotans sent pro-choice, pro-reproductive freedom majorities to both the State House, to the State Senate, and also re-elected pro-reproductive statewide offices, including our governor. So, Mr. President, we do now, here in session, have a duty to answer the call of Minnesotans to truly protect those reproductive freedoms, to enshrine them not simply in case law, but also in our statutory law. Part of what we've enjoyed in the state of Minnesota is that our own state Supreme Court, in a state decision, Doe v. Gomez, has found that we do have those rights. So again, these are our values. This is the practice in the state of Minnesota. This is what we believe. What Minnesotans are afraid of is to see potentially that what happened at the federal level with our U.S. Supreme Court could eventually in some future time happen here in Minnesota. The decisions of our courts, the upholding of our fundamental human rights, are only as strong as the judges who uphold them. God forbid that could happen here in our state against our values, but we do not know what the future holds. And those changes can happen, as we have seen at the federal level, very quickly. So we are asked and we are charged at this time to take those values, to take those practices, those rights as they are acknowledged now in our laws, in our case law of Minnesota, and in our state constitution, and further affirm that the legislature of the state of Minnesota also recognizes and holds that these are the laws of our land. We will not simply put our faith in individual judges to uphold our rights. We will also enshrine those rights into state statute.
The bill's author talked about the most recent election and what the outcome of that election means, or what the people of Minnesota were saying when they cast their votes during that election. And as somebody, like many of you in this chamber I'm sure did, knocked on a lot of doors and spoke to a lot of constituents, you heard their very valid concerns on this issue, whether they be pro-choice, pro-life, whether they be in favor of abortions at any given time or not. The overwhelming sentiment that I heard from constituents and people all across the state through having conversations with my other colleagues, those both on my side of the aisle and on the other side of the aisle, and what many surveys and questionnaires inform us about is that most folks find themselves kind of somewhere in the middle on this issue. You know, if we're looking at the issue of abortion on a spectrum of those who aren't comfortable with it in any circumstance and those who are comfortable with it under any circumstance, what you would find is, especially as it relates to the state of Minnesota, that most folks are kind of right in the middle. Yeah, they might be in favor of some options and choice that make a lot of sense, especially when it comes to the health and the well-being of the mother, the woman. That makes a lot of sense. We're compassionate toward that. But they also know and understand that there might be a certain point of time that it makes sense to give true consideration to the life of that child in the womb who has yet to be born. And I remember the campaign commercials that took place because they generated a lot of questions from folks at the door. And most people were responsive to the sort of understanding that, you know, when we look at this issue, when we look at the issue of abortion, we certainly want to minimize it if possible, but if we need to get realistic and be reasonable about exceptions, whether it be rape, whether it be incest, whether it be the life of the mother being in jeopardy, that's what most folks were supportive of. And they sent us here, whether you're a Democrat or a Republican, to seek compromise, collaboration, and solutions that were for the betterment of all Minnesota. When it makes sense, there would be safeguards, there would be safety rails put in place regarding a law that were to come forward, and that we would find a way, especially so late in a pregnancy, to try to safeguard and protect life. I don't think many Minnesotans cast that vote if this was their issue with an all or nothing expectation. I think they were relying on us as elected officials to strike a reasonable balance. And I know it sounds strange to use the word reasonable balance when we're talking about people's reproductive rights and we're talking about life. For some folks, it's black and white. But what's incumbent upon us as a governing body is to help people find the middle ground between what is often black and white issues for some folks.